welcome to Adventures in Local Marketing from BrightLocal, the marketing podcast for marketers who want to do good local SEO. In the upcoming episodes, I'll be chatting with a smorgasbord of marketers who each bring their unique insight into the local marketing landscape. And each episode will serve up a one-stop overview of our guest's chosen topic area. It's going to offer tips and tactics that you'll be able to dash off and implement right away, as well as offer insights that will get your brain cogs whirring. I'm your host, Claire Carlisle, and I am BrightLocal's local search expert, as well as a chartered marketer with 20 years of experience working with local businesses of all shapes and sizes. And today we are going to be chatting with my new friend, Julian Hooks. So Julian is a senior manager of SEO at Asurion, which is a tech insurance and warranty provider, and its subsidiary YouBreak iFix, which is a retail chain of corporate-owned and franchise-owned tech repair stores, and they've got 700 locations in the US and surrounding territory. And Julian also runs a boutique consultancy called Advertising Commissions LLC, where he is the principal SEO consultant and he works with a range of businesses, but loves working on strategic partnerships with home contractor organizations that are looking to grow and drive exponential revenue growth. Hello, Julian, and welcome to the show. Hello.
Hi, Claire. Glad to be here.
It is so nice to have you here. Thank you for giving up your time to come and share all of your knowledge with us. So today we are going to be talking about an area which I'm really excited that you are talking about these things, because it's something that really interests me. So we're going to be talking about customer centricity, what that is, and why it matters. And you're particularly interested in the importance of customer centricity in enterprise organizations. And I know that you've got a lot of experience in this area, and you've got a lot of top-notch strategic and tactical advice on this. So should we just dive straight in?
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay, let's go. Let's start at the beginning. In the Sound of Music, a very good place to start. So when we talk about customer centricity, and when you talk about customer centricity, what do you mean?
Well, in SEO, it's a lot of times we find ourselves doing a lot of work, a lot of research, competitive analysis, diving right into the data without first asking questions of ourselves and of our customers about, what exactly they want. There's always different perspectives for everything. There's the problems we think we're solving or problems the company thinks they solve best, but then there's always that customer perspective. So whether it's from just gathering user intent from SEO tools or actively mining data from your customer service team or tracking or listening for certain keywords on customer support calls or running surveys for your customers, really gathering what their exact pain points are, who they are exactly, and then working backwards from that to serve them as best as possible, and having that kind of lay over your SEO strategy as well. So kind of everything that you're doing, all the ranking factors that you're reading about or looking into, they all tie back to helping a customer in some way, shape, or form at the end of the day. And that's what Google's algorithm is all about. It just wants to, it's just an engine that is trying to predict the best possible user outcome for a certain query. So if you are also trying to be the best possible outcome in every way, shape, or form for that user's query, then you're going to align with Google's algorithm, and you won't have to know exactly what buttons to push or what ranking factor is the highest in all these things, because it's like you and Google are both on the exact same mission, and it's to help whoever's searching for whatever they're searching for. So if you focus on that, and then you can get into all the technical stuff and make it even better, but at the root, that's really the focus. And then you layer on all the tactical and the technical SEO stuff on top of that. But a lot of times people can win with just that and a little bit of knowledge outside of that. But of course, if you have a lot of knowledge of both, then the path is paved with gold.
Yeah, then you're going to win. So I love that. I love your description. It's that sort of very deep knowledge of your customer, what they're doing, what they're looking to solve. That was brilliant. Thank you. So thinking about a business which has got this right in terms of they're a customer centric business. From the outside looking in, what does that actually look like? How can you tell if a business has got this customer centricity and really understands their users?
Yeah, from the outside looking in, it's really about there is the customer rep or the company online reputation or offline reputation in general. And it's not always that it's going to be perfect, but it's that it's trending in the right direction. So, reviews in the local space, super, super, super important. And, there is, thinking at the enterprise level, there's always this dichotomy of who does what work. As there's multi-location businesses and things like that. So, for instance, responding to reviews, getting a lot of reviews, there's always you can do the templated, we're sorry to hear about your problem, reach out to us. And then there's the actual human response from maybe someone who is, grounds on the boots, who has actual firsthand knowledge of the situation and can actually speak to it. Um, and it's no matter which one, it's no question which one kind of wins. And when people come behind that and they read and see those reviews, that's really where you're getting, the ROI on the time you spend in that. An angry customer is an angry customer. They could just be having a bad day. Sometimes, they leave bad reviews. Um, and sometimes you're not going to be able to remedy it. Sometimes they're just mad that something's expensive and there's nothing you can do about that. But explaining the situation for everyone that comes behind them, we're all human. We've all had bad days, and it's pretty easy to look at something and say, okay, I understand that person who gave a bad review is probably having a crappy day. Let's match it up. There's 10 other great reviews that came right behind it. I'm gonna, make up my own mind as to, whether I want to do business with these people.
Thinking just a little bit beyond reviews. So, like looking at an organization's website, right? If I was looking, are there any what would be like the obvious clues maybe that I'd be looking for on someone's website that would let me go, oh, yeah, they're thinking about what their people what they need. How would I know what might be on there?
Yeah, so on the website, I look at kind of messaging that speaks to your target audience. Very clear, concise messaging and a UI or UX flow that makes complete sense. Um, some examples that I come across in the industry are if it's very, keyword heavy or the flow of the content. For instance, let's say there's an SEO working at a company. They say, hey, in order to rank for the keywords or to get the traffic we want, we need to have a 5,000 word super post. It's got to be long. We got to cram it full of things. So again, first thing I said is, in order to rank, in order to placate Google, we need to do X, Y, and Z. So you're already off to the wrong start. The question is, okay, if we think Google wants a very comprehensive answer to this question, because that's what best serves the user. How can we provide that, but also in a way that is easily digestible for the user? So that's where, fun design comes in. Maybe it's not just 5,000 words on a white screen. Maybe that you break it up. There's different large text, small text, a table of contents, being able to jump around, a small, TLDR section where it's like, hey, we have all the information, but really you can get the answer in a paragraph. Here's that paragraph. If you want to learn more, continue reading. We're not going to bury it down in the bottom. Also, what I see a lot of times is a lot of jargon. Um, I don't want to say this is 100% of the time because sometimes I'm not the target audience, but I've gone to websites and spent 15 minutes on it and still have no clue exactly what they do or how they're going to solve their customer's problem. Um, it's very riddled with fancy language and words, and I don't know, maybe it's to, feel or present a certain facade, but sometimes it's as easy as, hey, if you have these problems, one, two, and three, this is how we solve them, one, two, and three, and this is what your life business, this is how your life improves, or this is what your future state looks like after working with us. Another great thing that I see is if you're a tool, if your service, case studies are great, working through exactly what you do, how you do it, and the results. If you're a SaaS business or you provide a tool, what I love is videos of the tool being used for the use cases that you say you solve. And to me, it seems like a no-brainer, but a lot of times, I guess the proprietary information is locked behind, a salesperson, and you have to have a demo, and there's no trial, and there's no videos. And to me, I feel like that's really not putting your customers first in order to just show them just, hey, you got problems 1 through 10. Here's how you solve those problems with our tool. Watch the video, maybe have a free trial and do it for yourself. And free trials are great because if your tool is great and they work in it a lot, when the trial's up, they don't want to back out. They're like, okay, I've gotten used to this. This is great. I don't want to undo what I've done so far. So let's move forward. So those are some things that I find that it's really putting the customer first, and it's just helping them as much as humanly possible, um, and then gaining their trust and at the end of the day their business.
That's fantastic. Thank you. When you said I'm not their target audience, that really made me think of, if anyone has an experience with a website with an organization that they are very much the target audience, and you go onto that website and you think, wow, they know me inside out. They know what my questions are. They know all of my whatever my worries might be or whatever my objectives will be. My what am I trying to say? The problems that you have, the barriers to actually taking someone up on something. So that could be an interesting thing, is look at who works for you and then use those as an idea of what does it work to show that you really know that customer inside out. Sometimes it is really useful to have some examples, and I'm wondering if you can maybe think of a couple of brands, whether they're big or small, that you think are doing a really good job, that people might know of, that you think are doing a really good job of being customer centric.
One that always comes to my head is North Star Inbound. Now, this is an SEO company, and they specialize in PR in link building. It's run by a woman named Nicole, who she follow her on LinkedIn. She does great stuff. I'll remember her last name. I think it's De Leon. I might be butchering
Okay.
that, but I one time I went to the website. It's northstarinbound.com, and in SEO, we all know links are very important, but it is pretty much the most time intensive and one of the hardest things to do correctly. To say it correctly. And she on their page it says we build links from real organizations that won't embarrass you with content you will be proud to showcase. Now, that sentence right there speaks to anyone who has ever tried to outsource link building to another agency and has received a product and they go, oh crap, I can't show this to my client.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that, I was like, oh, yes, this is exactly this speaks to so many people who have just been let down in the link building arena and genre, and you get back your product and you're like, I am embarrassed to show this to anyone. So knowing that and like just that one message just, and I probably saw that over a year ago and it always
Mm-hmm.
pops up in my head. Like anytime I see an embarrassing deliverable,
Yeah.
I'm just like, yep, they need someone who can speak to them. So that's one that just popped up into my head. Um, but another example of someone I love and what they're doing. This is a larger one. It's Rand Fishkin over at Spark Toro now. Every time I see him on LinkedIn in a video, it's him with a new idea saying, "Oh, look what you can do with this product," just giving out free advice. They have free trial. I have a free trial. And sometimes it's not him, it's a customer that's using their service for something new that he didn't even know was a use case. And the
Mm-hmm.
first thing he does is he's just like, oh, look at this other use case that you can use for this. So really it's just evangelizing, this is how you use this. Here's 18 million ways that you can use this product to kind of solve your problems. And it's they don't hit you over the head with the sales pitches or anything like that. It's really just truly producing value for their target audience. Oddly enough, that's what the tool does is help you
Mm-hmm.
research
Yeah.
and know your target audience. So you know, makes sense that they're doing it well. Um, but tons of notoriety, just really moving the needle on knowing your customer and providing value for that customer, and building a brand through that way.
And some people might think, and this is sort of a segue into the enterprise versus non-enterprise businesses. We've given some really good examples of solopreneurs, smaller agencies that have really exhibiting that deep knowledge of their customer and their needs, how to message them, and that customer centricity. Are there any like bigger brands, thinking of like bigger machines in terms of, oh my goodness me, this is quite an incredible enterprise business, which still manages to communicate and exhibit that customer centricity? I'm wondering if you're thinking, if you can think of anyone that you think is doing a really good job.
Well, there are the huge brands, like the Nikes of the world. When you kind of just think about uh, their move towards, let's say, inclusion, whereas it's sports, it's just do it, but they have campaigns that speak to pretty much every single person on this earth. From if whether that be religion or whether that be a disability, they have sports and campaigns that reach and speak to every single person, and that's probably at the highest macro level um, of doing business. But even on smaller, maybe not that scale of level, but you think of brands like Chick-fil-A, um, who are, they've become a meme of how great their customer service is, and that just it's just become a thing. You just compare Chick-fil-A to any other fast food service and industry, and it's just funny play on how great their customer service is compared to everyone else in the world, and now that's just become a running meme of sorts. And it's really just having a consistent, repeatable process of putting the customer first. And, that's at the largest level. But for, enterprise, let's say multi-location businesses, um, you just try and create a trickle down effect. Let's just say, any franchises or things like that. There is, the top down, there's the corporate level, but then everything spiders down into the locations and boots on the ground. And that's where, when you get into the local aspect, it's kind of chain by chain, store by store, but being in those communities, knowing your product in and out, and then, kind of being a pillar of your community, and just, being a part of that. If you know some customers by name, like getting to that level where it's just like, hey, your brother's laptop broke, right? And now you're in here. Like, that is kind of the
Yeah,
when you get to
yeah,
that top level
yeah.
of actually knowing your customer. But
What do you think it is that makes it harder for businesses to sort of preserve that customer centricity as they scale? And do you think, is it different depending on, whether you're a franchise, whether or not your many locations are more sort of organization controlled? What are the key problems with like retaining that? Hopefully you had it in the first place when you scale.
yeah, so the problems that I see kind of when companies are scaling to a massive level, are you start to aggregate all the data and the key points that you're looking at. And that is great as a business to know if you're trending in the right direction as a whole, as a network. But when you aggregate the data, you're just averaging everything together. So some people are doing amazing, and some people are falling. And so you really need to continue to dive deeper into your data, into your markets, into your stores, to know what's going on, at that granular level. And that becomes harder to do the further you are away from actually what's going on at that level. So what I found is, putting in systems in place of constant communication, and prioritizing the things that are super, super important, and making sure that information is distilled and it gets to the people who are actually engaging with the customers on a day in and day out basis, and letting them know how important it is. And that is not just important for corporate, like, it's important for that individual store to be profitable, pay salaries, give raises, have fun things to do, have a better work environment and things like that. So it really does affect them as an employee and a person. And it's not just about, the corporate people in the office that need things to be done a certain way. And another thing that I've been able to do kind of at the corporate side, working with hundreds and hundreds of franchise locations, is kind of build out tools that pull in all sorts of data, so you can look at things more granular, and really hone in and have kind of red flags pop up and saying, oh, this state for some reason we're not doing well in X, Y, and Z metrics, or maybe it's just this city, or maybe you just find themes, and then you kind of dive into those themes and attack what's going on. But it's just really about keeping things granular, and not just looking at that 10,000-foot view, where it's like, okay, we're doing well. We've improved 10%, while one business has improved 50% and another is down 50%.
You touched a little bit on metrics there, because I think that we're going to talk in a minute about a framework that you put together for me and us, especially for today, because I think the question that a lot of organisations are going to ask is, yeah, that's all sounds lovely, It's not fluffy, but it can sound a bit fluffy. It's like, well, know your users and be good and know people inside out and speak to them directly and all of those things. But organizations are going to want to know, well, how do I benchmark that? Where are my metrics? And then how do I go about like understanding whether or not these things have improved? So you're going to tell us now, thank you very much for doing this for us. You have got, based on all of your like immense amount of knowledge here and experience with all sorts of organizations, a bit of a 5-point guide then for customer-led strategy. So this will give people, it's always nice to have a framework to hang your ideas on, especially if you're quite early on in your understanding of putting strategy and tactics together for this. So I'm going to just say to you, can you tell us, please, Julian, about your 5-point customer-led SEO strategy? Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure thing. And I want to preface this by saying honestly, I feel like I haven't talked about SEO specifically very much, but that is my bread and butter and that is what I do. But anyone who's been doing SEO for long enough, you realize that there's so much to it. And at the end of the day, it's just marketing. And then you have your specialty of how to communicate that to the search engines. But what I like to do is break down and connect kind of the user centricity case and how that directly matches with one of Google's ranking systems to kind of draw that parallel to teach people, hey, you don't have to think of the algorithm first. If you think of the user first, it directly correlates to something that Google is trying to measure. So with the 5-point guide, think I put these in the right order, but they might not be. So it's, identify customer intent is what I would say is the user portion, and SEO might say, do keyword research. But that is what you're really trying to do, is find out why the user's searching what they're searching for and what do they need to be satisfied at the end of the day. And that's going to align with, BERT, the bidirectional encoder representations from transformers. It's just
rolls off the tongue.
Google's fancy thing, but that helps Google understand the nuances and the context of words in search engines, allowing for a better match between the user and the search result. So you can do the scientific way, or you can, hey, talk to your customers, see how they speak, how they search, and what they need, and at the end of the day, you're serving both masters, Google and your user. Next, we have optimize for the user experience, and that is the experiences. It could be just your website, but it could be part of their whole journey. It could be the purchase funnel that they have to go through to get the answer, and typically, speaking of SEO, maybe it starts with the search, but that's going to relate to the page experience signals, and that's not exactly a ranking system, but we do have core web vitals and mobile friendliness. Mobile friendliness is really easy to understand. Almost everyone is on their phone searching, and if the mobile website doesn't work, or there isn't one and they have to zoom in on their screen, or they can't click anything because the buttons are so close together and everyone has fat thumbs, these are things that are going to drive people crazy. So Google has metrics. It knows if the text is too small or too big, or the buttons are too close together, things are unclickable, and that's going to weigh into how well you're going to rank. And with the core web vitals, a lot of people stress over getting a perfect score. What I've seen is your site just needs to load in a reasonable amount of time, preferably the same or better than your competitors. But if it's doing that, then you're typically fine. And of course, that goes into prioritizing, your priorities. Another one, I would say leverage customer feedback. Now, that could indirectly, help with the helpful content system. By taking in that customer feedback, you're able to, produce better content, edit the content that's out there, and, produce new content that's super helpful for your users. Obviously, with the helpful content update, that is, all the rage. People are actually very confused over what is helpful and what's not helpful. I had a conversation the other day where, there are seemingly a lot of sites that produce helpful content, have lost a lot of positioning. And I think it's a matter of not only being helpful and relevant, but also being unique, because there could be a million helpful articles on the exact same subject. There's, only one number one spot. So yes, it's helpful, but is it anything new? Is there any reason you're more helpful than the other million articles that say a very, very similar thing? So, you can still be helpful, but it doesn't mean you're going to be number one. You got to really go further, and original. Again, that leads to creating valuable content. We've been hearing this since the beginning of time. I still hear Matt Cutts in my head saying, "Create great content," for anyone that's been in the industry that long. And not we're still here. Create great content. Um, but this, directly correlates with the helpful content system. And it really wants to prioritize original, valuable content written for people. Um, so do what you will with that information. Another one is kind of monitoring user engagement metrics. Now, Google doesn't explicitly say or confirm that they use kind of these engagement metrics as ranking signals, but this activity can influence like the rank brain. I would say Google ranking system is probably the closest match. And it helps, Google better understand the relevance to users' searches. And so when I say user engagement metrics, it's kind of things, think of on the SERP. So there are conspiracy theorists that think, Google is mining data from Google Analytics and it's looking at all these other things on the site and, maybe some stuff from Chrome as well. But I think we do know recently that they measure all the engagements that's happening on the search engine results page. So that the easiest thing to think about is click-through rate. And we know this is kind of a trailing thing because it takes Google a lot of time to collect enough user data of the click-through rate on certain um, links or listings. So Google will know, hey, whatever was in position 4 is getting way more clicks than what's in 3 and 2. For whatever reason, we're going to assume people like that. And so, maybe number 4 gets promoted after an amount of time. Or when people click and bounce back. So we have this at number 1. We notice that every user or a majority of users that click this link end up back on Google 30 seconds later and make the exact same search again. And then they click something else. Or maybe they notice when people click on result 2, they never come back to Google and Google anything about that again. So maybe they got what they needed from that search. Or they click result 5 and then a lot of people come back and ask a secondary question. So for some reason, result 5 prompts people to ask this question now. And what are we going to do with this information to wrangle up the results? And then we throw it in a people also ask. And then, an SEO writes an article about that because it's in people also ask. So there's a lot of information that Google's using just based on their own SERP data that's not pulling, information out of your website. But you can monitor things like click-through rate in Google Search Console. You can play with title tags and meta descriptions if Google's not rewriting them to attract users. Now, you don't know if users are going back and searching something different after the fact, but you do know if they're staying on your site, if they're seeing multiple pages, if they're clicking through, or if they're there for 2 seconds. Now, if the content doesn't answer the question in 2 seconds, then you probably have an issue. If the content is a typical yes or no, they get what they need right away, I wouldn't feel that you need to force them down the path because you're scared of the repercussions of a bounce rate. I'm pretty sure Google's sophisticated enough to know if someone's, searching for a yes or no question and they click your site and they see it's yes, and then they go back to Google to do something else, that is not going to be a detriment, or that's not, a ding. So it's really about just serving, again, the user there and kind of those metrics. But again, tying what users are actually doing and what they need to specific Google ranking systems and seeing, how they might correlate and play off of each other.
My gosh, I'm like, there's a lot of food for thought there. That need to revisit that one. You should write a talk about this. You're pretty good at this, actually. Yeah, you know some stuff.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. That's really good. It's interesting that you started with I am actually an SEO, because it would be easy to go down the path of going, I'm a user experience specialist. I mean, we're marketers, we do lots of different things. And I love the fact that you're so passionate about, I know the tech stuff. I can do the SEO, but we need to combine these two parts, which is, we are actually marketers. We need to know our customers. Now, I am sure that there will be an SEO related rant that could come out of this. Let's find out. Let's find out now. I'll ask you the question. So we get to a part of the podcast where we talk about Room 404. Which is where we take a phrase, a concept, something that we find endlessly annoying, and we throw it away, cancel it, put it in an oubliette, or do something to it where we never have to listen to it again. I'm very interested to know what your take on this might be. What would you like to say goodbye to?
So if I had to say goodbye to, there's a lot of things that I would like to say goodbye to, and I think I can do that with this way of framing it and packaging it. So every year we get a list of ranking factors. Everyone has, they stack rank the ranking factors. And what I feel that leads to every year is a lot of people trying to prioritize 250 different things. So what I want to throw away is 190 of those 200 ranking factors, and kind of put them in a box for people who like to waste time. I've really I've come to love the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the results come from 20% of the actions. Some people have even pushed that to 95-5. I think I might be leaning towards, maybe I'm 90-10 right now. And I see this at the enterprise level. I see it at the local level. I see it with mom and pop shops that don't even have a website. Maybe they have a Facebook page or Instagram page, but they're killing it. They're doing amazing, and they filled out their Google business profile, and they run their business, and they ask for reviews from everyone. And that's they run their business. They ask for reviews. They filled out their Google business profile completely, and they're crushing it. Don't even have a website. Or they were using one of the free Google websites. And it's just when you come across those things over and over and over and over and over again, you think to yourself, man, like, they probably don't know about all these ranking factors. All they know is, hey, I want to get good reviews, and in order to get good reviews, I got to do a good job. And Google asked me to fill out this stuff, so I answered every question. And they're killing it. And so what happens is there's shiny object syndrome. Like, there's new features Google comes out with. There's like, oh, you can put emojis, on your business profile now. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. But how much time should I be spending thinking about the emoji that I'm going to put in my service, as opposed to just doing the job, running the store, running the organization? asking for reviews, responding to customers that are upset, and trying my best to remedy those situations. And then even on, the national level, a lot of it is know your customer, talk to your customer, give them what they want, make sure your website's crawlable. You got to do that much at least so Google can crawl the website. But if it's crawlable, loads in a decent speed, from there, focus on your customer, give them what they want. And so there's those 190 other ranking factors that can just take up so much of your time and attention. And if you're not doing, let's say, the top 5 things correctly, you shouldn't even be thinking about anything else unless you can say that we do these things to perfection. Because anytime you take energy away from what's really important, you're not growing nearly as fast, or you're not doing as well as you possibly can. And that means a lot of things might not get done. People who are really heavy on technical SEO and running their crawls, a lot of that stuff is not worth fixing, because it's not because maybe it's not worth fixing, it's because everything takes time and you can never get time back. So any minute, any second you spend working on one of these low priority things, you're not spending that time on a high priority thing. So it's not that it doesn't matter at all, it's just that there's always going to be something more important. And so focus on that more important thing.
All right, we'll get rid of that. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone into room 404. Julian, you are very wise. Julian for president. And also, just a couple of things just to round up. I'm going to say to you, can you give us, the people that are listening, 1 or 2 places where they can go away and they can learn more about sort of this customer-centric SEO? 1 or 2 places would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll give 2.5 kind of. So
Okay.
there is, it's not specifically, he's pretty popular in the community, but Eli Schwartz, and he talks about product-led SEO, and it's just, as I consume his content, there's a very large overlap with, the customer-centric SEO, as in when you're focused on the product, a lot of that is based on the customer and the consumer. So I find a lot of the themes and methodologies very, very similar there. There's another blog I like called SEO for Humans, and it's from the Momentic blog, but they kind of distill SEO tactics, and again, kind of like I did earlier, talk about the human element of that and how you can write for humans and then also, serve 2 masters, placate Google as well. And kind of my and a half, it's not so much about customers and speaking to them so much, but the documentation to improve SEO from Google. The amount of times that I come across the Google blog, or the developers blog on Google, and it just plainly spells out so much vital information about how search works, how Google works, all their ranking systems and how they interact with each other. And, oddly enough, it's typically in the top 10 sometimes, but, Google's not an SEO, they're just publishing the content. But I feel a lot of people don't know that resource exists, that I come to find. And so I'm trying to get everyone, it should be required reading for anyone in this industry to go through it and actually know how Google works, what an algorithm is, and how their ranking systems kind of work together.
Exactly. It's like from the horse's mouth. You need to go and consume this content at some point.
Yeah, whether you
Um,
believe 100% of it or not, you need to go through it so you can know what to and what not to believe, or at least know kind of the theories behind the search algorithm.
Definitely. So, coming up to the end, I'm going to ask you, where can people find you? If people want to connect with you, and why wouldn't they? Where do they need to go? Where will they see you and hear you?
Awesome. So I am most active on LinkedIn. And you can find me by just, searching my name, Julian Hooks, or it's LinkedIn/in/Julian Hooks, no space or dash. And you can send me a message or connect there. Um, and outside of, the social media realm, I'm very, very active in the home service contractors marketing community. So if you want to learn more about kind of growing your business, if you're in construction or a home service contractor, I run contractor lead partners. And for kind of any enterprise SMB SEO musings, advertising-commissions.com is where I write. If you'd like to see me in person, I'll actually be speaking at Brighton SEO in San Diego in November, and I'll be giving a speech titled "Beyond Algorithms: Customer-Centric SEO as the Key to Long-Term Success."
That was fantastic. It was really fresh. Personally, I found that really fresh and interesting, and there was really loads to dive into. So I want to say a big thank you to you, Julian.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, a big thank you to you, our listeners and our watchers. So I'm going to say to you, please remember to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, because then you will be the first to know when a new episode is released. And if you enjoyed listening to Adventures in Local Marketing, which I very much hope you have, please leave us a review wherever you're listening, and maybe send it to a friend, listen to it with a friend, because it really makes a difference to us, to help us share the messages and to make even more valuable content. So we will see you next time on Adventures in Local Marketing, and I am looking forward to it already. Thank you.